All right, hello, hello. We're gonna go with this one tonight, I think. Welcome. This is the first annual Friday Poetry Night, so I'm excited about it. I think I changed the info on Twitch correctly, but we will see. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out which ones I wanted to read. As you can guess, as I don't know if anyone here was here last night when I was reading Illness as Metaphor by Susan Sontag, but I have hundreds and hundreds of poems. So there was quite many that I could have read tonight, and especially I wanted to pick some that were like a good variety to start with. So I feel like one that I often read if I'm at like a poetry night, just as like kind of like a background story kind of thing, is this one that's called Those Eyes Have Seen Things Now. I don't know if you all have ever seen anyone either on Twitch or on TikTok. That movie with I forget what it's called actually. The one with the robot. It's like the early 90s movie with the big eyes. It's like its eye plate is like shaped like this. That's the image I usually show with it. I've read it at like a conference before. Let me switch to a different. We'll do this one. I'm gonna show it up on the screen as I read because I feel like a lot of folks end up like being able to understand things better if it's actually shown at the same time. Let me figure out how I even, there we go, Microsoft Word. Cool. All right. So, like I said, this first one's called Those Eyes Have Seen Things Now. This is about my neighbor. So I had a couple like really, really good friends growing up, and they were brothers. And the younger brother was the one that I was like not as close to, but basically their dad was a cardiologist. He actually ended up being my own dad's cardiologist, and he ended up having a big problem with pills like in high school, and it never really went away. So this poem's about him. Twinkle, can you not? All right. It goes like this. One of my neighborhood best friends growing up is a wanted fugitive for possession and dealing of controlled substances. We used to play can't touch the ground, kick the can, and shoot each other with squirt guns. Listen to Weird Al and try to wear moon shoes. You used to put ice cubes in your milk and get teary-eyed watching Short Circuit. That's the name of the movie, by the way. I couldn't remember. But your mugshot is a fraction of yourself, and you were never big. What happened between now and then, my old friend? Your family doesn't know where you are. What made you not want to be found? I gotta move this on TikTok so you can see it a little bit better. So literally, like to this day, I don't think we actually know where he is. Like we don't know. It's less I heard at least. But now that I think about it, I guess I probably would be out of the loop with their family just because my mom was the one that basically kept up like the local appearances with neighbors. Like my dad was never, he's never been really that type of person to like check in on neighbors, and his dad ended up retiring as his cardiologist, so he just kind of has lost touch, I think. But it's wild to think about, you know? I made a collage out of that poem for a class. It was like a relational communication class that I took in my PhD. And I like in the center put the short circuit robot. You gotta Google it. Like Google. Actually, we'll do that right now. There's a particular image that I usually will show with it because it looks very like starry-eyed. Short circuit robot. Really, any of them will do. Let me flip this over so you can see. Oh. So you get the gist. How's it going, Mason? Oh, nice. Portland. How was that? I hope that was nice. But yeah, that's the image I usually show. I haven't read it like a whole bunch of times, but I feel like it really adds. Oh, this is a video. It really adds like the weird like 90s nostalgia that I want the poem to like. Yeah, it does kind of look like Wally, doesn't it, Ladybugs? I mean, I think that it was basically the first Wally. Oh, all of these just keep taking us to videos. All right, well, you get the picture. All right. So, the next one I was thinking of reading, I was just gonna kind of give you all like a background into you get for some reason I had all of this stuff. Oh, I was on that one app called like Throne or whatever. Like it's like a wish list kind of thing. I added that to my page because I updated my about section and everything. So, all right, back to Microsoft Word. But the next one that I was going to read you on that same theme of kind of like more of my backstory, etc., was I have a whole poetry book just dedicated to like when I was processing the loss of my mom. So this one's easily the most like hard to read out of the whole book for me. It's the one that ends. It's just a micro chapbook of poems, but this one is like easily the most like emotionally challenging one. Like it's the one that really like the first couple times I read it, I like absolutely sobbed my eyes out. But anyone that's ever seen any of my content or has gotten to know me in recent years knows that it doesn't take that much anyway. In a therapeutic way, you know? Oh, cool. Oh, you visited your sister. That sounds like she's doing really cool shit. Speaking of family, like I said, this one is so I wrote it. I guess I should tell you all a little bit about the story. I think on my stream, like maybe the second or third night I streamed, it might just be in like a random puzzle game or something, but I told folks about the fact that halfway through my PhD, my mom passed away from lung cancer. So this poem is about that. Just a little bit more context. So my parents had me when they were 43, and I say they because their birthdays were a week apart. And basically, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer in 2017. So it was the a few months actually, I think, before I got my PhD like acceptance letter. So it was like so bizarre, right? Because I was 27. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know I was autistic, but like it was always clear. And so basically, I ended up moving for my PhD eventually, just like to a new state. And then March 2020, COVID hit. And like that same summer, so what, it hit in March, in June, right after I like got back from like a really big virtual, oh, it was a virtual conference, I guess actually. But it was like the big conference for me of the year. I got a call from my mom and she said that she was being put on hospice. And what's wild is that we thought it was in remission at the time. So it was like a big shock, you know what I mean? And for anyone that knows about hospice, like if someone gets put on hospice, it means that they usually at most have probably 6 months to live. So like it was like a complete shock for our family. With that said, like she was on hospice from like June till She passed away August 10th. And since I was in Northwest Ohio, and my dad's still in Northwest Indiana, it was like during a pandemic. I was working on a PhD, and I was incredibly poor, as of course, still am pretty much to this day. And I had to drive there and back, like not knowing if I was going to give my parents COVID. And, as anyone knows, elderly folks are already more at risk to get COVID than others. And my mom had lung cancer. So it was like, she was quite literally on her deathbed. So it was an absolutely wild time. And the only time that I've really ever been able to like articulate that type of experience has been through poetry. So that's really what this poetry book is about. It's called Mother Dearest. But this poem is called Every Night. It kind of explains itself, so I'm just gonna get into it. Every night, my father sleeps a few feet away from where my mom died. Weeks before her official passing, he had pronounced her already dead. Stopped listening to her voice, properly feeding her, or treating her like human. I arrived to find her in a shrunken state, jaw and collar bones subdued into near silence. Luckily, I am not deterred so easily by quiet. For days, I asked her questions and listened to her shallow breath struggles to string 2, 3 words and make more sense than my father would give her credit. I heard her, and the more I heard her, the more she spoke, the more she ate, the more energy she exuded until she was fashioning the wit and person I had always known, but never took the time to appreciate in a fullness death introduces you to a fullness death introduces you to of those you never loved loud enough, soon enough, lively enough. I heard her until I couldn't, and then I drove the 4 hours there to hold her hand as she lay dying, and I couldn't feel her there any longer, and felt little need to speak any truths she hadn't already heard. I drove 4 hours back, and as soon as I arrived safely, in the SUV she gifted me to keep. My father called, and she was gone. Thank you for coming in. So as you can tell, a very heavy piece. I probably should have given maybe like a trigger warning for death and dying. So sorry for anyone if that would have been helpful to you. But like I said, thanks for lurking. All right. That's for sure going to be the saddest piece we will read all stream. I wanted to get that out of the way. I feel like it's important though. Like, I mean, it's especially with the amount of folks that have experienced loss over the last 3 years alone. Oh, what's up, Datum? I just read like the saddest poem, like easily one of my saddest poems ever. So it's nice to see you. All right. I was gonna actually I'm glad that you arrived right now because the rest of them that I was going to read, or at least a good amount of them, were actually about autism. So, let me switch over to this other window. I'm gonna blow my nose, and then we're gonna get into the better autism ones. All right. So the ones that I was gonna read are actually gonna come out in the Journal of Autistic Culture. They're like some of my first autism poems that I've ever had published, so I'm like really excited about it. Hold on, let me mute this so I can blow my nose and y'all aren't. I'm sorry, TikTok, you're gonna hear it. That yeah, that didn't do what I wanted it to, but it's okay. Yes, I know. I'm happy that you're here too. Thank you. I know that I haven't seen anyone actually do like I don't know why it flags LMAO as if it's a cuss word. It did that last night too. It's so weird. Oh, for sure. I'm really sorry to hear that, Lady Fox. Yeah, there's so many people that experience so much loss and usually not being able to say goodbye, especially over the last 3 years. So yeah, I figured it would be like incredibly relatable for that reason. But like I said, I think hopefully these will be maybe a little bit more upper on the high note in comparison to at least that one. But this next one is called Autistic Gypsy. A lot of my pieces are just like really, really short. So this one relates to my mom as well, though. So it goes like this. My autism was told to me as casually as my gypsy bloodline. My mom told stories of both with pride, framing in gold what others still see as a slur. That's it. That's it. That's the whole meme. That's the whole poem. So that one's like I said, it's gonna be in the Journal of Autistic Culture, along with the next three that are a little bit longer. That's probably easily one of my shortest. I suppose before I go on, I don't know if anyone here has heard me like talk about why I might write a poem like that. Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I know. So I'm like super meticulous, as I'm sure you can tell, with the way that I write my poetry. Like it's all very, very thin. The capitalization, the punctuation, the spacing is all very deliberate. And I've been writing like that since like 2016, so it's just kind of stuck with me at this point. But only recently it actually occurred to me like so my mom always referred to us as gypsies like her whole life, and it's wild because up until a few years ago I didn't know that gypsy is a slur. Like, which sounds so ridiculous. Like, it's in hindsight, like, if I had more knowledge, like, if I wasn't just your stereotypical ignorant American, I feel like I would probably have known that way sooner because it's like a no-brainer for anyone that has like an international like awareness. And apparently I was shielded from that. So I wrote that to kind of just like speak to that experience of being Roma and not knowing that our background is like literally we're hated. We're hated all over the world to this day. Like only recently because I like finally bit the bullet and decided to go onto ancestry.com and like try to look up my family tree more, especially, since again my mom passing and everything. Did I realize that like I didn't have like my ancestry doesn't have documentation before 1880. And the reason why that would be, for anyone that doesn't know anything about like Czechoslovakia, is because there was basically a bunch of hate crimes happening against Roma people around that time in like the Austria-Hungary, what is now considered Czechoslovakia. And so people, my ancestors, and plenty of other folks had to flee the area, and many of them went to Chicago, which is where my family, like both sides of my family landed, like right there. Like obviously coming in through New York and then going to Chicago. So it's wild because I mean, we never talked about it, but it's like my mom always referred to us as gypsies. Like we have, I don't know. And it's the reason why I didn't know is because the later ancestors assimilated into whiteness, right? So I was just like blissfully unaware of like my own cultural heritage. So anyway, that poem is basically just like the tiniest glimpse into the fact that that's something that I'm now realizing and trying to pursue as like a larger sense of self-realization, but much in the same way that my experience of learning that I'm autistic and always have been. And so I think, I don't know, it kind of pairs it together. Oh, okay, for sure. I don't think I've heard of that. Yeah, explain if you want to explain more about that. Vibing. All right. Another autism poem. I know it is. It's wild, right? Like, I mean, I bet there's a bunch more folks that are like that with their own unique history. So, speaking of things recently learned, I'm gonna try to organize this in a way so that, because I know obviously folks on Twitch, well, actually, if anyone wants to see like a all entirely good view, come over to my Twitch. That's where the whole special scene is. But this next one is called I Learned. I think I organized it in a way where folks on TikTok should see it too. But it goes like this. I learned to string lights, lies upon my limbs for another. I turn on my face as living decor. They say masking takes off years of your life. Trauma sunken into our skins deep. They say fluorescent lights will kill you. Some of us must take the warning literally. We, the electricity, sparkling social spaces with all of our energies till all our light bulbs burn out. I have been left, frayed wires covered in warm glass. Leave. Do not come back, mistaking my bulbs for your snack, waiting. I have since smashed the fixture you once gazed upon. Remade myself mosaic from shattered shards of me. My light show is canceled, shut down. I no longer cast free gleams for others' hungry, darkened eyes. So as you can guess, I'm sure the autists in the spaces, the TikTok space, the Twitch space, can probably guess that that one is about, it's about masking. Oh, Tatum. Good. See, I think that's just that's why I've embraced the inside out sadness. This is every time I see this, I like it cracks me the fuck up, but like truly like I hope that it was cathartic because I mean that's what like I said, I without having written this kind of stuff down, like I don't think I would be anywhere near as far as I am currently in my healing and like processing journey of being a late in life realized autist. Like for sure. Yeah, I feel that. No, me too, for sure. Well, so I don't know about y'all. Like, I guess we haven't talked like too much about this. Like, yeah, I haven't seen any content about this on TikTok now that I think about it. But in the realm of what Tatum's saying about the like recovering people pleaser. So I like used to think growing up that I wanted to be a therapist. And in hindsight, like the more I'm thinking about it, the more it's because, as many autists do, right? We gotta learn everything about how to be a human, like deliberately and through effort and struggle. And so I mistook that, like, which is such an autist thing to do if you think about it, right? Like, mistaking, like, oh, I can help people. Like, I can meticulously learn everything about a human, and then I can mirror them, and I can say what they want me to say, which is like the process of masking, to the extent that I thought that that's what I would be good at. Like, and it's like I couldn't possibly, like, that's not something I would have the like, I don't know, in certain ways I could see it, but I wouldn't have. Well, actually, you know what it is? It's the more that I learned about like therapy, and no hate, of course, to therapists. Like, we need therapists for sure. But the more that I learned about the fact that therapists are just mirroring, like, the more I was like, I've been doing that my whole life. Like, I don't, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't know. It's just it's a line of work that it takes a very specific type of person. I know, yeah, yeah. Gragu hugs. Psychology has always been a spin. Okay, yeah, for sure, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I used to sit, I don't know if y'all used to go to Borders, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, no spoons, no spoons. But I used to literally go to Borders when I was like I don't know, like 11. Like, I would be like, "Mom, can you drop me off at Borders?" Like, before I could drive, I would just get dropped off at Borders and then like go and sit in the psychology section. Like, I don't know about, I'm curious, do you all remember like what some of your very first like special interests were? Because for some reason mine was for sure in that same realm. I'm gonna move TikTok so you can see this over here. In the same realm, my very first special interest that I remember was probably like eating disorders, which is like really, it says a lot about, especially with what we know now about autists and disordered eating. Like, that for sure. Because I remember sitting in Borders and reading basically every book I possibly could about it at like the age of 11. And like diving into like that website Zanga, if you all ever went on there, but in a way that was like, I don't know. It was very hyper fixating in the yeah, okay. In hindsight, yeah. Oh, for sure. Okay. See, I feel like I don't know if it was just because there wasn't a Barnes and Noble closer to me, because there was a Borders like maybe like 5 minutes from my house, so I went there. But yeah, for sure. Oh, cool. Is Walden Books kind of like a? Is it like the same feel as Borders, or? Oh, for I know. See, that's funny you say that. So okay, so and I don't know if I'm is it vibe it's vibing with Azaria, right? They said my parents got put a Super Nintendo controller in my hand before I could walk, and they didn't know I was ADHD. So I've been playing. Like I finally updated the Twitch bio with. I've been playing video games for literally 30 years, which is fucking crazy. Oh, thanks for the follow. Lemon Viola, that's such a cute name. So, yeah, okay, yeah, that kind of figured. Oh, my brain can't make sense. Can you break up? Is it Azria? Azria. Yes? Azria. I think my brain can't make sense of AZAH. I don't know why. Anyway, it's a beautiful name. See, I go by Bird because the amount of names that I've heard from, like, I get Bernadette. Oh no, they held you for swearing. Oh, okay, for sure. That makes sense. Azria. Oh my God. Am I fucking I'm gonna fuck it up forever. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get it, I swear. Azarea. Azarea. I'm gonna hope that's correct. I get I get Brunette, I get Bridget, I get Brenadette. I just go by Dr. Bird. Like, oh, fuck yeah. All right, cool. Azrea. All right. I like that. That's really, I don't think I've ever seen that before, which is wild. Like, that's a beautiful name. But like I said, I think so we were talking about the hyperfixation of eating disorders. Like that was a big thing. Like in the early 2000s, like there was such a culture of that. It was even before Tumblr. Like that was when I was really hyperfixated on it. Oh, for sure. Okay. Oh, it's your Hebrew name. Oh, cool. Okay. See, I never really played Zelda that much. I always played Mario games also. Like I really, really loved Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. That shit was like, I have the fondest memories of that game. It's my favorite. Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. It's just safe to say that most any millennial in the early 2000s was just straight up not having a good time. Like, yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, that's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna for sure watch that. I followed you back, right? Or no, let me see. I'm gonna have to follow you back so that I can watch that because I love that. It has such a special place in my heart. Like I love it so much. As frustrating as it is, okay, for sure. I'll make sure that I do if I haven't. All right. What did I have up next? Oh yes, another one. I forget if there's a second one under this. So like I said, these couple that I'm reading, so like those last two and then these next two, they're all going into Aut, the Journal of Autistic Culture. And I'm like so proud of them. Like it's the first like autism journal I've ever had anything published in, so I'm like so fucking stoked about it. And I think it'll be this month actually, if I remember correctly. This next one is called Isming. I know for sure. I think I probably played, so I bet I played it in 98. Thank you. I know, I'm so excited about it. It's literally like there's gonna be so much cool shit in the issue, I bet. Like I'm gonna try to get a free copy and just I'm gonna like tell everyone about it on all platforms. So just stay tuned. Because I'm like so fucking proud. A friend of mine from my PhD program is like I don't remember if they're like the assistant editor or what. Oh, thanks to Tatum. All right. So like I said, this next one's called Isming. The water hit my teeth like tinfoil. I am organs isming, hands over fists full of static. I just don't feel good. Used to be a reason only good enough for anyone but me. My senses pour and betrayed our insides. Alexithymia disconnected the dots between my lines. My skin's turned red in alarm of feelings I cannot compute, only shake free. I have been spiteful, visceral anarchy. A fire in me refuses dormancy. It does not have to be this way, I scream into future silence. Words said for other people's children. Tism, 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 tism. I forget, I Googled the meaning of ism when I wrote this, and I feel like I remember it being really cool. Let me see if I'm gonna Google it real quick again and put it up. Because I remember being surprised by it. Do you all ever do that? Like, do you ever Google, like, what the meaning of a part of a word you've seen all the time is? Google doesn't want me to do that. Ism? It keeps giving me the definition of suffix. Okay, yeah. Thank you. I know, that's what I'm always going for. I feel like snapping my fingers like at poetry readings. Do it. I wish I need like some sort of like reaction where it's just like snapping. Speaking of, I added like the little thing to my Twitch page so that y'all can react with sound now. I don't really know exactly how it works. Since I don't have I'm like on my way to affiliate. I gotta, oh, thank you. I'm like everything's free. So you get to just kind of bask in not having to like pay bids for anything yet. And I think you can just give like you can do sounds and stuff. I actually just got it from like Stream Elements. So eventually I'm gonna redesign it so that it's more like, you know, actually fitting to some other theme. But I'm really digging it for now too, so thank you for saying that. But yeah, Google the meaning of ism because I remember it being really cool. And that's why I called the poem that. Like I was surprised by it because I'd never thought of it. All right, the next one is called Gestures, another Tism poem. So this one you really gotta see. As an autist, I know what it means to have people take your you, flip it upside down, cut half of your circadian movements off to call you an artist. Our moves mean much more than works purchased by chance. Behind the register, I do not know what my embody means now. Allegedly normal rhymes robbed diversity from me, extracting crooked baby teeth from my unsightly, bited jaw. How do I chew up my life now? In this neurotyped world, too many are lost between cement cracks. We do not escape without road rash. We cry tears for our own lives lost. Too many grieve silently our own deaths. We, the unaccounted of narrow criteria. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think I saw you, Medicated Rose. What's your username though? You mean on Twitch? Or Medicated Rage? I got flowers on the brain. Also, I think I heard a follow, yes? Oh, thank you for the follow, Mr. Encyclopedia. Brand of paper. Oh, so I actually just always write electronically. Is that what you mean? Like, were you asking, like, do I use, like, certain journals? Because I know a lot of writers are, like, super specific about, like, where they write and what they write on. I don't know about y'all. Whenever I get a, like, oh, for another, oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, whenever I, like, write, I edit too much as I'm going, and then after I publish, like I publish really impulsively, and I blame that just on the millennial experience, like because I've been blogging for my whole life, so I've just gotten used to writing and then basically like, you know, like doing whatever. Like I'll write and then I'll edit it immediately. So if I wrote everything down, it feels like not only can I not get my thoughts out quick enough, but I end up wanting to go back and editing it anyway. So I want it to be like, I want it to be something that I can make more malleable. So that's why I write electronically. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, sorry for the confusion, Medicated Rage. Oh. Tatum literally cheered out loud. Yeah, thanks for Tatum. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, the grief of a late diagnosis, cyclical and non-linear. The rage for the lifetime of mistreatment, silently grieving the death of who I thought I was, but also recognizing the birth of who I'm meant to be. Or I'm meant to be. I like that though. Meant to be, either one. Bittersweet. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I love so much about just like good. I'm glad you're here. You're welcome to come over to my Twitch though also. I just started it like 5 days ago. But no, I mean yeah, that's why I was so glad to just like be able to get into that journal because I'm hoping that like especially with so many folks just over the last 3 years alone, like I know that the self-realizations were happening prior to COVID, like but of course really really taking off in over especially when everyone came over to TikTok and the algorithm did its thing. So yeah, I'm really excited to be able to like get that work in there and like have more autists read it. I had so I don't know how many of y'all have like heard the jokes, like the academic jokes about like reviewer two, where like basically if you submit a publication to like an academic journal, the reviewer two is like they're stereotyped as being super mean and like giving feedback that's really harsh and sometimes even just like outright cruel. But I literally got like the most like I cried. I was sitting like I I remember sitting in one of my classes work days when I got the feedback for this poetry and literally it was the most like thoughtful like it was so obviously feedback written by an autist that read the work and was like I see exactly what you're doing here, but it felt like they said that their specialty was like Emily Dickinson, and I was like wow, like I've never had like an English person that like is a poet like who's classically trained read any of my work and then give me feedback. So it was literally like it filled my whole fucking heart that day like in just the way I needed. It was incredible. So thank you all. I mean in that way and I'm feeling that feeling now again having your feedback because that's I write it for us. So thank you. Oh, welcome, welcome. It's nice to see you, Joseph. Dickinson is awesome. I know I haven't read like their work in a really long time, but I remember liking it. Yeah, that's that's such a good line. Exactly. Yeah, COVID definitely really helped. I think a lot of folks explain like why, and I mean the amount of shame that so many of us have had to work through like in this process is like really like it's so much. I forget if I had any more. I think, oh, I have a couple other autism poems that I grabbed. So there's another one from, like I said, I got a bunch of Amazon Kindle like poetry books that I published like early, yeah, 2021, I think. And this next one is called They Say. It's in my Amazon Kindle book called Kindle Breakthrough. So here's what happened. It was this. I feel like this is another like stereotypically autist thing to do. So basically, I tried to publish one Amazon Kindle book, and I don't know if anyone here has ever tried to do that before, but it's actually like very easy to do. It's very easy. It almost feels like the equivalent of publishing like a website. What's up, Doodad? And but basically, the long and the short of it is that if you try to publish a Kindle book through Amazon, if you don't publish it by the date, like if you say it's a pre-release and then you don't publish the draft by the date you say it's going to come out, they just cancel it. So that happened to me on accident because I don't know, I just got sidetracked or something. So instead of staying with that one, I decided to kind of like play with the weird like failure of this process. And I decided to create two books instead. One called Kindle Breakdown and the other one called Kindle Breakthrough. And this is a poem from the second one. I know it was the worst. Yeah, it was like something that like I feel like I should have like I don't know how I didn't like have a to-do list or something that reminded me to publish it, but I forgot to. So anyway, this is a poem from that book, the second one, like I said, and it's called They Say. Yes, it's nice to meet you too. Also, everyone, we got people over on Twitch. I made a Twitch like 6 days ago, so you're welcome to come over there to like see my goofy face as I read these. But you're welcome to hang out on TikTok as well, of course. Also, welcome to the other person that came in. I wish I could see like everyone here, but I really can't. Anyway, the next one is called They Say. The devil is in the details, an autist's specialty. I replay you, temporal telescopically. Time shift our reruns like VHS. Unfurl magnetic tape from your electromechanic center. I have tried blowing the dust off your insides. I heard you should always try that first. You were my overdue rental. I decided to eat the fees on till you returned yourself. So I have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of poems about just being in love with someone you're not supposed to. And that is one of them. Nice to meet. Oh, yeah. Nice to meet me is what you said. That's super funny. So that's just one of them. Snapped. Snapped so hard. Fingers break. That's hilarious. Thank you. Big same. Good. I'm glad. I feel like that's just like a quintessential. Like, okay, I don't know how many of y'all like were here last night when I was reading Illness as Metaphor by Susan Sontag. Like we just started reading that yesterday because Thursdays I read. I started this Twitch like 6 days ago, but Thursdays we read 7 to 9 Eastern time. And we were talking in the book. For anyone that hasn't read it, by the way, definitely read it because the book's incredible. She talks about tuberculosis and how it was framed as a disease of passion. And she talks about how in its age, and I forget when it was, maybe the 16th and 17th centuries, how it was branded as the artist's disease, and how artists are framed as being like so impassioned that of course they're going to get tuberculosis. Like it was basically like, well, that's how you know you're a good artist, because you have tuberculosis, because obviously it's a disease of passion. So clearly if you're anyone that's anyone, you would have tuberculosis. Like that's literally, it's hilarious. Like definitely, I know, rewatch it, because I mean, like I said, she writes incredibly. Like Sontag's writing is fucking phenomenal, and I'd been meaning to read this book for a long time, and it's amazing that I hadn't. So it was such a like beautiful surprise. So I mean, Team Fat Bacon, you were for sure here last night, so don't give me that. TV isn't that bad. Okay, yeah. I don't know. I don't remember if I'd heard that before. Like, I feel like, okay, because I knew that it was like sickness broadly. I knew it was romanticized. I know that because of like the model look, like the thinness, the pallor, like that kind of stuff. I knew that that was romanticized, but I didn't like really know that tuberculosis was the one. So it kind of like it blew my mind, but it also like made sense in a way that I didn't really get. I don't think. I don't know. Like it's one of those readings that like filled in the blanks, I think, of a lot of like, oh, culturally this is why, like this. I don't know. Yeah. Show me how much blood is in your cough. The true measure of an artist. I mean, if Moulin Rouge taught me anything, like while eating a pretzel pizza, so I am well indeed. Oh, that's great. I'm happy for you. Pretzel pizzas fucking rule. Like those are underrated. I feel like I remember like, I don't know, I just have so many like fond millennial memories of Pizza Hut in general. And like I remember one time, I feel like I remember when the pretzel pizza came out. At least for a short period of time. They had I feel like Pizza Hut had millennials just by the throat. Like like you will get our sticky hands, and you will read books, and we will give you small pizzas, and also there is a pretzel pizza crust. Also, thank you for the follow. Is it Velosa? It's still just tomato on bread though. But what they say, don't they say that tomato is it's a vegetable. So that means you're getting your food groups. All right. I think that was the only, those are the autism, unless I had other ones. I feel like I might be, maybe I was gonna read another one from here. Maybe I wasn't. No, that was the one I was gonna read from that. Okay, so that's all the autism ones. Tomato on bread is good though. Oh, also thank you, Cosmic Lulu, for sharing the live on TikTok. All right. I think I only had one other one that I was gonna like that I had prepared. But there are some like other like published ones that I considered pulling up. Let me do it so that you all can see it actually. All right, where is it? This one, yes. This next one is called People. Speaking of disease and vectors of disease, Napoleon. Oh, geez. Oh, this is the other one. All right, the last one that I have is called People. And it goes like this. People trade you tokens of love for loss. The exchange rates are perpendicular, intuitively appealing axioms, deducing many other propositions. Some of us spend our time trading losses of ourselves. COVID has inadvertently allowed us to discover time travel. Wine-soaked lone livers cling to years past sociality like pans to a shadow. I'm so proud of those last couple lines. I'm just like, look at that shit eating green. Like I gotta be honest, I'm really proud of those last couple lines. So that obviously I wrote that one since COVID. And yeah, I don't know, y'all. I mean, I've been posting more content on my TikTok lately about the fact, oh, thank you, about the fact that like I've unfortunately, because I was undiagnosed autistic and like many late in life realized autists, I like have drank way too much for like, I mean, my late teens and entire 20s because I was dulling my sensory sensitivities. So I was like, all right, like it was just one of those poems where it's like, are you lonely? Do you drink too much whiskey? Have I got a poem for you? That's basically like, but yeah, I don't know. It's very much just look at what COVID has done to us. It's made us realize that, like, did everyone see what I was picking, like, what I was putting down here about the discovering time travel? Because I don't know about y'all, but like, a lot of the early years of COVID for me, oh, thank you, was like, I really did feel like I was almost like sat down to just like because I was completely alone. I don't know about y'all. Like, and obviously it's its own difficulties, like not being completely isolated in early years of a pandemic, but like I was just like spending far too much time like recollecting on like everything in my life and just like thinking about like shit that I had no business thinking about. And yeah, it truly it yeah, time really did stop. Like it really did. It feels like I mean, and that's why, I'll joke about my memory being bad, but like really like I don't know if it's just is does everyone feel like their memory is worse? Because I feel like I mean, and I can't tell if it's because of the pause and it's like it feels like the time was almost just absent. Like it's like when you're editing a video and you cut out like a chunk and then you just kind of paste what was after it, like right at, I don't know, but we can't do that. Like it's just sort of like, well, that was we did, but it's still happening. Like obviously, like I don't know, it's such a weird experience. Oh, okay, for sure. So you get it, yeah, yeah, for real. That's such a good way to put it. Spent all your time from the neck up. I feel like I've heard that before, but I don't. That's such an apt way to put it. Like that was when I started reading tarot. Like I blame, like I said, the Roma background. There's a lot to it. Like you gotta do what you gotta do. I feel like that's definitely also why there's been the huge turn on TikTok of spiritualism. Have you all noticed that too? Like, is your algorithm also doing that? Because mine for sure has been ever since COVID started. I never saw any content like that before COVID, but I'm constantly getting tarot readings now to the point that it literally incentivized me to learn how myself. Yeah, exactly. It's been, yeah, the last week. There's been weird vibes the last week, I feel like. I don't know. I think actually I'm trying to think. I have like, so clearly I do work about media as if as if anyone's here has ever heard anything that I talk about, it's like fuck duh. Like I have one so I wrote, like I said, in the process of early years of COVID, a lot of work like reprocessing life as a millennial influenced by the internet and stuff like that. And there's one piece that I had out in the Journal of Media, like Explorations in Media Ecology. So, like the MEA journal. And it's all about that. Let me see if I can find it. I think I had it on there at least. Poetry. It's funny because you can't tell. Like I'm clicking through my folders, but it looks like I'm just clicking on that Word document for you. Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. So I have a piece. It's actually all about this, and it's called "To Be Invisible Glass." Let me flip over so you can flip it to this so you can see. There we go. So this came out in 2021, I think. Yes. Okay. To Be Invisible Glass. I know, yeah. That's so true. All right, goes like this. Pretend I am a screen. Look at me. Scroll through my feeds and analyze my data. Lay around, holding me in your hands so many times you lose all desire to see me. And then scroll me some more. For sanity and seriousness, browse my skin and bookmark prime pages of my sensorium, leaving marginal distinctions between parts of me read and to read. That's like the nerdiest shit. That's straight up. That's the nerdiest shit. But also I love it. I love it for that reason. So wait, I think I misread that actually, Joseph. Did you mean that like if you were passed up on a reading, like because the algorithm was like, oh, I guess Joseph isn't into that reading. Like suddenly it's like, so if your reading was like, oh, your life is about to crumble, and then you flipped on it, it would be like, oh, you're about to succeed. Like, is that what you mean? Because maybe that's just the trick. Maybe that's just what all the manifest people are trying to tell us. We just gotta, it's just like the algorithm. Oh, that's okay. So you just gotta be nerdier, you know? It's, so it was just all about like the way that our relationships are oftentimes, especially since COVID, right? Mediated by technology, but then also like, oh, they weren't related. Okay. And then, just like the way that kind of our understandings of each other, especially through text, like they can be understood so many different ways, for better and for worse, but wanting to connect anyway, and like wanting to be read and wanting to be understood. And just like, there's something, so a lot of what media ecologists, like in a traditional sense, talk about, because like I said, that's what my like critical media ecology is stemming off of. They deal with a lot of like, what's the effect of a shift from a culture from material, so like a physical book, into something that's like a digital interaction. So like Twitch, maybe, like this chat or like any other kind of thing. But I think there's something interesting about like the way that we experience just reading a book, like if we're holding a physical book versus if you're reading it on a Kindle. And so that's what a lot of media ecologists talk about. And like that's really what that piece was getting at too. Like let me see what. Actually, like I don't know how many folks were here when I hate that it tries to block out the word shit. Like I gotta change my settings on Twitch so that it doesn't do that. But when I was reading Amy Lutkin's memoir, The Lonely Hunter: How Our Search for Love is Broken, it kind of plays into that too. Like the idea of how in like the dating app culture, there's like this oversaturation of options. And so like it's kind of like, oh, like look at like take me and then playing with the words of like what it means to be like physically connected to someone as if like as if they are just like more than one option in a sea of dating app options. Like and like comparing some like there's a lot of so my dissertation was about sexual ecologies in the algorithmic age and like the promise that venture capitalists are making about sex robots and like biomimetics. I don't know if you have I ever talked about biomimetics at all? I don't think I have, which is kind of surprising now that I think about it. But for those who don't know, biomimetics are technologies that are meant to replicate human touch and technique. So, in regards to sex tech, obviously, biomimetics is meant to replicate human touch and technique, but in an erotic sense. So, there's been enormous innovations, like as the rhetoric is always saying in recent years. And my work in my dis, in large part, looked at like what does it mean if we're so like dead set as a society, or at least as a consumer culture and people that are trying to make money, on replacing human beings in a culture that is still so dehumanizing to most of us. Like, what does it mean about our relationships if we would rather recreate human beings than actually relate to each other as human beings? And I was like, well, if my lived experience is any telling, or if any of the stats about violence are any indication, it means that apparently the relations are so violent that a replication of human beings is a better choice than being with them in many cases. It's easier. If we can get gratification or fulfillment or relationship through other means, it's yeah, I mean, it's there. That's also why I've done work recently about like ASMR and the untouching touch. So this is to say that that poem kind of plays into all those things. Oh, really? You were never see, I guess I was never really into spiritual stuff before COVID either. Oh, for sure, nice. Yeah, I feel like there's just like a big like there's a whole circle of just like queer lefty like almost witchy people. Like that just I think a lot of us are in very similar yeah, okay, yeah, crossovers. Yeah, yeah. Oh, sure. Oh, so you're a mega chud, right? Yeah, that sucks. Well, because I made a video about that way, way long ago too. Like and I didn't even know that this was a thing. Like the way that, and I forget, are they called crunchy people or something? Like the granola people. Like, but the pipeline from crunchy to like QAnon. Because that's like, I think that's what comes to mind. Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what comes to mind for me with like the fear that people usually have, and for sometimes very good reason, right? Like I mean there's too many pipelines nowadays, and if somebody's gonna like talk about like, oh, we need to like do all this organic stuff. It's like, yeah, of course we do. Like, but we need to also contextualize why everything is poisoned. We need to we need to contextualize like the colonial capitalist structure in which like the reason why you want to be a trad wife is returning. Like there's a long history of why these things are coming back. And unfortunately, as all my, TikTok content and lots of other folks that I'm like so glad to see are connecting like the threads of eugenics, ableism, and racisms, and cis heterosexisms, and classisms to the rise of fascism, because we need to get real about that. Like truly, we can't we can't deal with what's happening if we ignore that, because we're not dealing with reality if we don't. Go organic. Yeah, exactly. Yes, totally. Like I remember, I forget if I was watching like a documentary episode, like one of those docu-series or something, but it's really fascinating. Like I remember watching one, and like it was like a mom, like she was being interviewed, where she was like, yeah, I was on Facebook, and I felt like one day I was like, okay, go drink green juice, and then the next day was like, there's space lasers and blah 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 anti-Semitism. It was like she noticed, she was marking on like the notable shift in her timeline, like like it shift from the go organic to vaccines are poison path. It's a short walk. My theory is that the pipeline exists because being crunchy and believing in QAnon requires the same kind of circular magical thought. That's legit. No One Nation. So I was how do we get here? I was reading a bunch of poetry, and the last one was about relationships and technology and things like that, and like the way that our relationships are influenced by, I guess, just the algorithmic age broadly, but then like on the flip side, like crunchy and QAnon culture. Because I mean, there's so much, I mean, it's always inherently wrapped up in anti-intellectualism, right? Because it's like, oh, well, you can't trust, because what's always strange to me too is that the crunchy folks are usually like also anti-intellectual, and but at the same time it like in their logic of thought, like it doesn't make sense, but I see why they think that way. Like in the fact of if they're returning to like home remedies and stuff like that, like that is something where it's like, okay, well, fuck the institutions because blah 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 blah. But it's like, and it's like, yeah, actually, kind of fuck the institutions and many other reasons. But like, this isn't this isn't why. Like this, like it's like I don't know. It's just like I said, they're always missing the mark. Like they're right there, as many people have said. Yeah, exactly. As long as the thoughts serve the bigotry, they're all for it. I know it sucks. But yeah, that's what you walked in on, No One Nation. We were talking about QAnon. Yeah, I don't know, y'all. It's rough out there. I don't know if, I guess I haven't made content about this yet either. Like, in regards to, like, the anti-intellectualism and doctors and things like that. So, like I said, and I said this at the very beginning, but like I read that poem about like my losing my mom and my dad and stuff. And like my dad, like he's super sick. Like he's been sick for like a decade at this point. Like he's never really eaten, like his diet's never been very good, but he has like a pacemaker, and he's had this like sodium issue for the longest time that like I don't know how many of you know, but like if your blood sodium gets too low, you basically get all loopy and you like kind of lose like your ability to like be conscious, or you just become aloof, and then eventually like you faint and stuff like that. I'm kind of wondering if he might have POTS actually, but it sucks because, and I talked about this a little bit on Twitter, but I haven't made TikTok content about it. But he had another episode like yesterday, and he fell, and like this is the first time it's happened where like it blocked out Jesus fucking that's so weird. Yeah, I gotta change that so it stops muting people. But it sucks because it's like in that way, I get the anti-intellectualism. If like literal medical professionals are not gonna protect the people that are most vulnerable, like sure, like for that reason, criticize the people that are meant to protect us. Like we absolutely need to do that because they need to do better. Like I've been glad to see that even like folks that like hadn't been as outspoken about masking and stuff still are at least being like, yeah, like people need to be masking in hospitals. Like, but it's on another hand, it's like how sad is it that that's like something I'm like, oh, I'm so glad. Like I'm so, like as if that shouldn't just be the default. Like, oh, I'm so glad that people actually give a fuck if people are protected in hospitals. Like, I don't know. But yeah, it's scary, like just thinking about because, like I said, he's been at least off and on like hospital visits randomly for like the last 8 years. But this is the first time where he's had to be in the hospital since doctors in hospitals aren't masking. So he's there literally right now, and I mean, he's just hooked up to like IVs, like getting his blood sodium up. But it's scary. Like, I mean, there's a distinct chance that because of what's going on, like he could get COVID. And like I said, he lives with a pacemaker. He has had open heart surgery. He's had multiple like he's just the perfect example of someone that shouldn't be in a hospital if medical professionals aren't going to do what they promised to do when they got their medical license. But he's there, and I'm 4 hours away. So it's not like, and I'm poor. Like it's not like I can afford to go anywhere. And I couldn't go in the hospital probably anyway. So I don't know. I don't know what we do moving forward. For sanity and seriousness. I like that line. Deep diving. Oh, I think I missed this tech or this comment. Rejection becomes the totality of intellectual thought. You never have to prove anything, just reject all things. I know that's a good point. Like that's something where and I think it's interesting because there's a purpose, I think, in someone's like process at one point for that. But it's a difficult path, I think, as someone that wants to be critical, like realizing that you really do need to learn something like in depth to be able to properly critique it. Like you almost have to be obsessed with something to know it really, really well and then critique it. Like my mentor in my master's writes about, and I've made a lot of content about this too. I'm always saying it. Oh, Graceful, thanks for the follow. About the neoliberal transnational and global media industry. So his big thing is Disney. And it's funny because he's written so much about Disney that you would almost think that he loves Disney. And like someone in class once was like, Lee, do you actually like Disney? Like, and then he was like, I love it in that it's so miraculously evil. It's like, all right, like I respect that. Like, because you really, I mean, the hold I mean, much like what I was saying before about millennials, nostalgia, and Pizza Hut by the throat, like Disney has the entire US context, if not more, by the throat. Like, truly, just like, these are your norms. Let me feed them to you. Like, like yes, you want to be a princess. Let me take this. Like, I don't know. It's just, it's wild. Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, that I might take you up on that. Like, I mean, that's what's wild. It's weird. It's so weird. Like, it almost feels like nowadays, like, it doesn't feel like real life. Like, I don't know if you all feel that way too. I can't tell if it's just because this is the point of my life I'm at or what. But the year after PhD is so weird because you're just sort of at the whim of wherever you want to go. Or wherever you, or not wherever you want to go. I wish I could go wherever I want to go. Wherever you get a job. And then that's just like, okay. Like, because you got to remember, right? I've been in school for basically my entire life, my whole life. So it feels like it's almost like I've been in an extended tutorial. Like, because that's really like, I don't know if you all ever played the second Spider-Man that was on GameCube. Like, I have very fond memories of that game. Like, I never really played the newer Spider-Man games, but I remember there being like a really weird tutorial in that game in particular that almost looks like some sort of empty space. And I feel like I just finally exited that empty space, but I'm like too poor to go anywhere. Like, and then I'm just like, oh yeah, it's real life now. What am I supposed to do? Like, and so Twitch is what I'm doing, and I'm loving it. But it's so weird. Does anyone else feel that way? I don't know if it's just like this era or if this is just me or what. The future being in front of now is not great. Yeah, that's a good point. No, definitely, yeah, liminal space is what I'm, because it was basically, if I can remember correctly, and like I said, if anyone else played this game, like let me know, because it's like it almost looked like a bunch of blank cubes, and then you were just like Spider-Man. And so, like, you're learning how to be Spider-Man in this, like, liminal space. But what's weirder is that in the, okay, yeah. And so, like, okay, thank you, good. So, what's weirder, if I remember correctly, is that it almost like, it was like they left the X and Y axis of, like, a chart up, but you would, like, learn how to, like, fling your web out and, like, be Spider-Man, like, in this liminal space. And like I said, I feel like that's basically where I was, like, until last year. Like, I was just like, ha ha, ha, I'll just take out student loans forever. I'm never gonna pay these back. Whatever. Like, I'm pursuing what I love. Like, let's just, that's a later bird problem. And then, yeah, and then everything's happened. So, LOL. Yeah, like capitalism. You can certainly love to hate it for how evil it is. No, exactly. Well, and that's why, like, I mean, truly learning from that mentor that has spent so much time studying like neoliberal, transnational, and global media gave me everything. It's like the foundation of what I know about critiquing neoliberalism. Like, I had no idea what that was until like learning everything from him as a mentor. Like, I owe him basically my entire understanding of everything since. Since for those of you, and maybe I should, just in case anyone's not familiar. So, neoliberalism was a philosophic and economic model that started in the mid 70s, but really took off with Reagan in the 80s. And what it's famous for is it's a series of micro actions that oriented us to deregulate everything, to privatize everything, and to corporatize everything. But because of the way that it specifically monopolized media, that's another thing that went on the same idea as we were talking about before with crunchy culture and QAnon and like the mistakes of that. That's another thing that usually people on the right will understand and they'll see it in some regard, but they don't understand the history of why it happened. It sucks because it's like, yeah, you see that there's a big problem with the media. That's true. That's a real problem. Like, yes, absolutely. Uh, but then they'll be like, this something something anti-Semitism, something something space lasers. Like, it's like, no, like, you're right there again. But again, it bleeds into everything that we are neoliberalism. And like, because the big thing that defines neoliberalism is hyper individuality. So theorists argue, and that's why it's so relevant to my dissertation, because it affects all of our relationships. It, and again, this goes back, it's been in the making for hundreds of years, really, because it's just a late stage form of capitalism. But really, it influences everything that we are. So if we don't know about it, and if I didn't learn that, I would have nowhere near the understanding that I do about anything I researched lately. Yeah, exactly. I know. And that's what's wild. And that's what I try to talk about just like in a really broad sense. Joseph said they can tell that connections exist, but make all the wrong choices selecting them. So I like that you said that because I don't know about y'all, but like I said, in my 20s, I've spent like so much time just sitting in hole in the wall bars. Like I love that. I love like I've always gone to like I was a punk kid growing up. I like have been going to shows for like ever. And I spent a lot of time just like sitting at like I said, like hole in the wall bars and just like talking to whoever came up. And so I've had many a conversation with like somebody that probably, they has a very different perspective than me on many things. And if there's one thing I've learned just from having conversations like that is just like even if someone is entirely engrossed in the dominant norms that are oppressive, as we all of course are born into that world, their lived experiences tell something that is important to know because it either reinforces the dominant structure and cultural norm because it's discriminatory and oppressive in a way that they may or may not be consciously aware of, or it goes to show how much it harms them. And I think if there's one thing, and that's what really like I want critical media ecology to like help people become aware of, because you don't need to like to see what's happening in the same way that you just said, Joseph. Like they can tell the connections because we're all living in the landscape influenced by the connections, but we're socialized to not see it. We're socialized also broadly to dismiss our lived experiences as a valid form of knowledge. And that is robbery. That is fucking robbery. That is establishment controlling robbery, in fact. That's a very deliberate form of social control to tell people that their experiences mean nothing and that they're not a legitimate source. That's a form of social control. And that's a lot of what I mean, because other than learning about neoliberal and transnational and global media from so Lee Arts was my mentor in my master's, and he also teaches a lot of courses about like social activism and what else, like just like general media criticism and representations and things. Yeah, it affects everything. I know, yeah. And that's fascinating, right? I mean, and think about it. It makes so much sense. So Joseph said, Americans have no culture. That's how my family always talked. So the way that like I came to understand why people say that and then like may come to believe that is because like there's so much. I'm trying to decide how far to go back to describe this. I mean, like inherently the way that I've understood this is because in a culture based in a colonial way of being that at the start of the country created a concept of whiteness to erase cultural uniqueness to standardize a citizenry, it inherently required Americans to have no culture besides a culture that then has them buy things as a sense of identity or has them feed into like cultural norms that are colonial and capitalist to replace that sense of culture that was once there. Like that's all, I mean, and that's really why it's been a long time coming. Like the main argument in my diss is that there's been a mechanization of humans. So we've grown to believe the human body is a machine, and we have superiorized logic over emotion very slowly in incremental moments that didn't seem like a big deal in isolation. But when you see them in long form, and then you see what's now happening with technology, like what we talked about earlier with biomimetics, I've called that the humanization of objects. Because, in this structure, we know that most of us have been deemed less than human. We know that on the basis of anti-blackness and humanness that always has dehumanized anyone disabled, anyone that isn't deemed white, a concept totally made up, again, at the conception of the United States to deem citizenry. I have a piece coming out, actually. Let me see. I could pull it up. I literally just finished the proofs for it earlier today. It's coming out in the next issue of Explorations in Media Ecology. Where did I put it? It's called Car as Extension of Whiteness. I'll read you the abstract, and I'll put it up here. You get a sneak peek behind the scenes look. All right, let me put up. Yeah, good. It's already pulled up. Okay, so car is extension of whiteness. Not everyone's skin is extended equal. The U.S. white flight left historically and intentionally targeted marginalized groups in cityscapes in the impoverished dust of public transport. Let me bring it up bigger so I can see it better. All right. These racialized phenomena restructured urban environments and deadened surrounding landscapes, engendering deliberately barren space too far to traverse by no and low income feet. Now in the present COVID-19 environment, that's what I call this era. Midwest landscapes are an eyesore, which perpetually disable and dehumanize, further denying working folks from safe social distancing and PPE in areas already plagued with socio-historical and economic disenfranchisements. Meanwhile, redlined and/or gentrified affluent spaces remain composed of mostly whites of a certain status. This project explored present COVID-19 human implications of cars in a nation founded upon ecological devastations. So I have a copy of that up on my academia page, by the way. Yeah, yeah, exactly. A devaluing of culture to the extent that wearing it out and buying a new one is seen as a totally normal thing to do. Exactly. And I mean, that's what I was getting at. Like, again, everything that I research, everything that I talk about in whatever platform I'm on is all inspired by the things that I've lived. Like, nothing I say, and that's what's so interesting because, like, I'll get feedback sometimes from, like, folks that, like, they're like critics, and I'm like, I'm not saying this because I haven't seen it firsthand. Like, I'm also not saying this because this isn't like this is my specialty. I've spent at least a decade learning how this has all happened. But I know it's a lot. It's a lot to like see in one fell swoop. So I get it. It's like people think that it's like a bold claim, but it's like no, this stuff has been well documented. It's very well documented. The way that like whiteness as a practice, like assimilating into whiteness, the price of that is a loss of culture. Like, and that if you make synonymous your citizenry with that loss of culture, what do you expect? Like that's the culture that you breed. Like our value as humans is forcibly paired with our productivity. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what's so weird about like I think just everything that millennials are trying to struggle through right now. Like I say this a decent amount, but like ever since I saw that stat where it was like 51% of the US public is now making less than $35,000 a year, I was like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, like it's like, like truly. And then when you see the wealth distribution issue between like, and not, this isn't by any means, by the way, me being like, oh, boomers and silent generation, blah, but it's like, but literally, like, look at the amount of wealth that the oligarchy has. Like, generationally, they just happen to be the ones that have it. Like, in comparison, like Gen X and millennials, like we didn't stand a chance. And obviously now Gen Z. Also, thank you for the follow. Is it Scorshua 3? It's just wild. Like, I don't know how many, like, I don't know about y'all, but if they ever, like, my main concern, other than, of course, all of it, when, like, Biden finally ended the COVID emergency order, is that they're going to try to make us start paying back our student loans. I was like, I can barely afford to exist. Like, I can barely afford to exist right now. How the absolute fuck would I also have to pay probably like $800 more a month to survive? Like, are you kidding me? Like, with what? Like, would you like? I feel like this stage of capitalism feels like quite literally waking up into a scene of a Saw movie. Like, like it's like okay. Do you want me to just like literally cut off pieces of my own flesh and give it to you? Because that's all I have to offer you at this point. Like, there's nothing more I have to give. Like, I don't know what they expect of us as anyone. Like, I mean, I do know what they expect because, as I saw earlier, a creator, I forget their name. I think it starts with an M, but I'm like absolutely loving their content. They were talking about how, of course, the culture, and I've seen a lot of folks, or not a lot of folks, but a good amount of critical scholars referring to this. But the way that the culture was designed to, of course, reinforce the wealth for those like in the elite class. I much prefer, of course, like the parasitic class, and ensure that because of the carceral system created, basically will either ensure houselessness or wage slavery for those who don't succumb to those norms. So it's like we know that that's what the society is designed to do because that's what it's been. But truly, like there's just so many of us at this point, so struggling so much. I don't know what they expect. Like they have to just not they have to almost not know. Like that's how bad it is. I don't know. Capitalism, serfdom in all but name, but worse. Now with retroactive interest, fun. Oh geez, I even forget about that. Like it's Repo the genetic opera. Gee. Oof. My hot take is that Republicans want the suspension lifted because they know people won't pay it and it will inch more industries towards collapse. I wouldn't doubt it. Oh, so do you think it's like a, because what do they call that? Like accelerationism? And from the collapse, some people will generate profit. Yeah, disaster capitalism. One of my favorite articles that I read in a philosophy of technology class, it like the last semester of my PhD, was about, I think it's Peter Fraser. It's called The Four Futures. I don't know if y'all have ever read that. Definitely do. It's pretty short if I remember correctly. Accelerationism too, yeah, yeah. They do want the, I mean, I just saw, y'all probably saw this too. I imagine that if, you're picking up all the things I'm putting down, our algorithms are probably relatively similar. But the fact that they passed that horrible debt bill that builds that pipeline that's been sitting there for like 3 years. Yeah, for real. But if I remember correctly, at least their name is Peter Fraser, Four Futures. So they say that, and this is of course just like their theory, but as it suggests, he says that there's four futures. So based off of two pairings, it's like a Punnett square. In fact, I bet I could pull it up. It's so nice being able to like have these visuals at the same time. Four futures. Oh yeah, okay. Oh, Peter Phrase. Okay, I was close. Frase. Oh, it's a whole. Okay, it's like okay, yeah, life after capitalism. I forget that it's that quote. It's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. I swear that was someone else. Let me see. From Verso, of course. I wish I could find. Anyway, I guess I couldn't find the. I thought there might be the image of like the four, but the long and short of it is that he says the four futures are either capitalism and abundance, capitalism and scarcity. Let me see. So let me. What's that? Capitalism and abundance was. He has names for each of the stages. Oh, wait. Right here. Yes. Okay. The four futures. Exterminism is capitalism and scarcity. Rentism is capitalism and abundance. Communism and abundance is communism. And communism and scarcity is socialism. Unless I'm remembering incorrectly, those might be switched. But I think that I think I got it right. But I mean, who knows? I guess we'll see if that was correct. Oh, I bet. Well, I'm sure like Zizek probably has talked about it also, I'd imagine. Oh, well, thanks for stopping by, Potato. I know, I think I can't decide if I'm gonna play Stardew. I didn't like stream at all other than right now, which is kind of surprising because I've been streaming like at least like but it's been a lot. I've been streaming a lot since I started, like 6 days ago. But like I think I'm gonna play Stardew Valley. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. I was right on the edge of playing Stardew Valley, but now that you say that, I'm gonna do it. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end this one and then I'm gonna start another one and play Stardew Valley. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I've heard of capitalism realism too. Yeah. I know, like I said, I didn't remember ever hearing his name before I took that class, but I was like so glad there he is. Peter Fraze. But yeah, it was a great read. All right, y'all. Oh, Mark Fisher. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that you're saying that was the one who wrote that quote, right? It's easier to imagine the world. Oh wait, no, it says right here. The theorist Frederick Jameson. But no, I've heard of that though too. Hmm. It's easier to imagine the end of the world than to imagine the end of capitalism. I don't know, y'all. I'm imagining it. I think someone's got to. That's okay. No, but I mean, like I said, I think I like the person from what I remember at least. I always think of isn't Mark Fisher also the famous chess player? Or who am I thinking of? I don't know. Anyway, I've had such a nice time. I'm absolutely like living for this. Absolutely living for this. So thank you all for stopping by. If you want to watch me play Stardew Valley right after this, I will be starting it. But I've had such a good time. I wasn't sure, like, I haven't seen anyone read poetry like on Twitch before. So I've been like really pleasantly surprised by this experience. Like I just was like, well, I got like literally hundreds of poems laying around, so like I want to read them. Let's fucking do it. And y'all were super kind and such good sports. So I'm excited that we'll be doing this. Like I said, the plan is to do this literally every Friday because I figure like especially with just everything going on in the world, like we could all use more art. We could all use more shit to do on a Friday night. So, yay. All right. I'm gonna close this one and then I'm gonna probably grab some coffee and some water and then we're gonna play games. All right. All right. In the meantime, in the little break, drink some water, have some snacks. I'll see you in a bit. Thanks for hanging out. I gotta switch over to I keep forgetting, I feel like, to do the end stream. I'll see you in. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, but is it literally Ed or is it Eid? Either way, I like it. I've never seen anyone spell, if there is an Ed with two D's, I've never seen it. And like I said, anyone on TikTok, come over to the Twitch. I made it 6 days ago. Of course, I know, I'm loving this. Thank you for stopping by. Sorshwa. I'm saying, or Scorshwa 3. Oh, like, okay. Yeah, nice. Ed. All right, cool. All right, y'all. Like I said, maybe I'll see you with Stardew Valley. Either way, thanks for stopping by. Have a good night. We all deserve better.